in software project management. The topic is software process and process models, and then choice of process models. Software process and process models. Software product development process usually starts when a request for the product is received from the customer. Starting from the inception stage, a product undergoes a series of transformations through a very few identifiable stages until it is fully developed and released to the customer. After release, the product is used by the customer, and during this time the product needs to be maintained for fixing bugs and enhancing functionalities. This stage is called maintenance stage. This set of identifiable stages through which a product transits from inception to retirement form the life cycle of the product. Life cycle model is a graphical or textual representation of its life cycle. Choice of process models. The number of interrelated activities to create a final product can be organized in different ways, and we can call these process models. A software process model is a simplified representation of a software process. Each model represents a process from a specific perspective. These generic models are abstractions of the process that can be used to explain different approaches to the software development. Any software process must include the following four activities: software specification or requirements engineering, define the main functionalities of the software and the constraints around them; software design and implementation, the software is to be designed and programmed; software verification and validation, the software must conform to its specification and meets the customer needs; software evaluation, the software is being modified to meet customer and market requirement changes. The various process models are waterfall model, spiral model, prototype model, incremental delivery. So first one is waterfall model. The waterfall model is a sequential approach where each fundamental activity of a process represented as a separate phase arranged in linear order. In the waterfall model, you must plan and schedule all of the activities before starting working on them. Plan-driven process is a process where all the activities are planned first and the progress is measured against the plan. While the agile process, planning is incremental and it's easier to change the process to reflect requirement changes. The phases of the waterfall model are requirements, design, implementation, testing, maintenance. So this is a pictorial representation of a waterfall model. That is requirements definition, system and software design, implementation and unit testing, integration and system testing, operation and maintenance. Then second one is spiral model. The spiral model is similar to the incremental model with more emphasis placed on risk analysis. The spiral model has four phases. First one is planning, second one is risk analysis, third one is engineering, and fourth one is evaluation. Planning phase. Requirements are gathered during the planning phase. Requirements like BRS, that is Business Requirement Specification, and SRS, that is System Requirement Specifications. Risk analysis. In the risk analysis phase, a process is undertaken to identify risk and alternate solutions. A prototype is produced at the end of the risk analysis phase. If any risk is found during the risk analysis, then alternate solutions are suggested and implemented. Engineering phase. In this phase, software is developed along with testing at the end of the phase. Hence, in this phase, the development and testing is done. Evaluation phase. This phase allows the customer to evaluate the output of the project to date before the project continues to the next spiral. So this is a pictorial representation of a spiral model. The four phases: development, planning, determine objectives, and evaluate. Advantages of spiral model. High amount of risk analysis here. Avoidance of risk is enhanced. Good for large and mission critical projects. Strong approval and documentation control. Additional functionality can be added at a later date. Software is produced early in the software lifecycle. Disadvantages of spiral model. Can be a costly model to use. Risk analysis requires highly specific expertise. Project success is highly dependent on risk analysis phase. Doesn't work well for smaller projects. Software prototyping. A prototype is a version of a system or part of a system that's developed quickly to check the customer's requirements or feasibility of some design decisions. So a prototype is useful when a customer or developer is not sure of the requirements of algorithms, efficiency, business rules, response time, etc. In prototyping, the client is involved throughout the development process, which increases the likelihood of client acceptance of the final implementation. The phases of a prototype are: establish objectives. The objectives of the prototype should be made explicit from the start of the process. Is it to validate system requirements or demonstrate feasibility, etc. Define prototype functionality. Decide what are the inputs and the expected output from a prototype. To reduce the prototyping cost and accelerate the delivery schedule, you may ignore some functionality, such as response time and memory utilization, unless they are relevant to the objective of the prototype. Establish prototype objectives. Define prototype functionality. Develop prototype. Evaluate prototype. Prototyping plan. Outline definition. Executable prototype. Evaluation. Report. Develop the prototype. The initial prototype is developed that includes only user interfaces. Evaluate the prototype. Once the users are trying to use the prototype, they then discover requirements errors. Using the feedback, both the specifications and the prototype can be improved. If changes are introduced, then a repeat of step 3 and 4 may be needed. Prototyping is not a standalone, complete development methodology, but rather than an approach to be used in the context of full methodology, such as incremental, spiral, etc. Then fourth is incremental delivery. Incremental development is based on the idea of developing an initial implementation, exposing this to user feedback, and evolving it through several versions until an acceptable system can be developed. The activities of a process are not separated but interleaved with feedback involved across those activities. Concurrent activities: specification, development, validation, initial version, intermediate versions, final versions, and outline description. Incremental versus waterfall model. Incremental software development is better than a waterfall approach for most business, e-commerce, and personal systems. By developing the software incrementally, it is cheaper and easier to make changes in the software as it is being developed. Compared to waterfall model, incremental development has 3 important benefits. The cost of accommodating changing customer requirements is reduced. The amount of analysis and documentation that has to be redone is much less than that is required with waterfall model. It's easy to get customer feedback on the work done during development plan when the system is fully developed, tested and delivered. More rapid delivery of useful software is possible even if all the functionality hasn't been included. Customers are able to use and gain value from their software earlier than it's possible with the waterfall model. Thank you.